Hey everyone, I'm Aaron. That's Adam. Today we wanted to implement the shift, but we can't. Shift's been banned. So I'm staying left side. Adam's on the right side today. We're in a baseball brewhaha. That means a cup of coffee and daily baseball trivia. Breakers, we're getting after it again today, folks. If you're just joining us for the first time, we're glad you're here. Like, comment, subscribe. Add your comments below as we go along. We love to hear from you, and we will comment. We love the community that we can generate there. Please do also. Our favorite types of questions as we go along are your questions. So enter those in the comments below. What's something that's burning that you never wanted to know the answer to, but now you do? And we'll answer. We'll find a question for you. So Adam, let's dive into the trivia today.
We're talking rules changes. Had a few of them this year. So 1969 was the last time major rules changes impacted batting average before this season. Which season had the largest increase? So this year or 1969? That's what we're looking at. And this is inspired by our rules changes. We got pace of play rules. We've got offense rules. We've got stolen base rules. We got pickoff rules. We got the size of the bases. We got changes all over the place. And if you're following MLB news, possibly more coming our way. They're being tried out in the Atlantic League. But let's get to our question and our options here. We've got a 50-50 situation here. We don't get many of these. Which season has seen the largest increase in average? 1969, where the major shifts that affected batting average were the lowered mound and the smaller strike zone, or this year, no shift plus bigger bases.
Yeah, this 50-50 situation makes me feel a little too cocky. I feel for our friend Ross, who has really struggled out of the gates with the trivia. Maybe this will help him out. We'll see. I went 1969 because you had the year of the pitcher, and then like everything changed. I assumed it had a big jump, but of course, in a 50-50 situation, that's probably wrong.
Well, one of us is going to be right because I went 2023.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like the shift makes such a big difference with balls getting through the hole. So that's where we're at. So, this is a tough one, 50-50. But let's see where we're at. Correct answer is me, 2023.
You're rolling right now.
An increase to this point, looking at the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, increase of 20 points.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And I can say even anecdotally, I've seen some hits from like a guy like Jared Kelnick, who I watch a little more frequently than other guys, who's had RBI singles through the right side of the infield, where prior, even last year, you would have had the second baseman playing in right field, and those would have been outs. So I can definitely say, at least anecdotally, seeing balls sneak through the infield where they wouldn't have before.
The hits are coming at a higher clip, that's for sure. And we're seeing an early 20-point jump in batting average versus an 11-point jump in 1969. We'll see where we're at the end of the season, though. It's early, and teams will probably counter the impacts of the shift in different ways.
Yeah, sure.
So but we're going to talk about some of these rules and how they impact a little bit. So first, the shifts and bases. So here's a little graphic of what the shift limits look like. So you got to have two players on each side, 2 feet in the dirt.
Yep.
Bigger bases. You can see the green size of the bases there. That it's closer to home plate. So you got a bang bang play. Maybe more likely for that runner to get to first base before the throw.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. The one of the things that was interesting with the 2 feet on the dirt in particular is that, believe it or not all infields, the infield dirt was not exactly the same for all teams. So you had some that have like a couple extra feet of dirt in the, behind second base where second base shortstops play. So they had to tighten that up a little bit and make that all uniform. So it's the same for every team.
And we're going to get to field dimensions in a bit because there was some work around that. But shifts and bases. So shifts was a relatively new thing. Before it was used, the league-wide batting average was 269, which is pretty high in 2006.
Yeah.
And then it became more widely used in 2010, and the batting average dropped to 257. And then by the time we got to last year, where it was used a lot, 243 was the league-wide batting average, and we're already seeing it jump back to close to where it was in 2006.
Yeah, and that 243. I mean, it doesn't help. You have the shift, and you have guys throwing 95 to 100 miles an hour. It's hard to hit. It's hard to hit, folks,
and hard to control where you're hitting it.
Exactly. Yeah.
To where they're not. Well, you go try that.
Yeah, try that against 100.
So another shift, not for this year, but in 1969, which was a big impact, was the strike zone. So you can see the progression here on the screen. So in 1950, it was armpits to the top of the knees. But in a effort to shift the balance back to pitchers in 1963, it moved to top of the shoulders to the bottom of the knees. And you can see that's a significant difference. And then after the year of the pitcher, 1968, it shrunk back down to 1950, armpits and top of the knees, where it's sort of basically there now.
It's kind of similar, but they shifted it down slightly. So it's kind of like right below the number or the letters on your jersey, like just below that, and then just below the kneecap, like the hollow of the knee, is technically where that's at. But man, that big strike zone, good night trying to hit a fastball at your neck. Good luck with that.
And not only the big strike zone, but you had the mound, which was at 15 inches, so 5 inches higher than it is now at 10 inches. So you think about a strike zone that large, you're throwing downhill. No wonder it was the year of the pitcher in 1968. Those rules lasted only 5 years. But this shift, you think about 1969, what change had the biggest impact? There were a lot of changes. There's the mound, the strike zone, and then teams were also changing field dimensions.
Yes.
And fences in particular.
Yeah, so this was really quirky to look up. Beginning in 1958, they sort of put a standard on outfield fences. It had to be at least, brace yourself, 250 feet for a home run. The Dodgers moved to as their first stadium in LA. The whole stadium was like 250 feet, basically. So they had to put up a 40-foot fence. So the guys weren't hitting jacking home runs all over the place. But now they changed it now. It's got to be a minimum of 325 down the lines and 400 to center. I think there might be a couple of fields that are grandfathered in with some of that. Well, certainly Fenway, as an example. It's like 315 down the left field line. So you had sort of the advent of a bunch of multi-purpose generic cookie cutter stadiums that happened around this era too.
Yeah, and as we jump into story time here, we're bringing the funk, but we're also bringing the funky stadiums and fields that we played. So we played on some funky fields.
We sure did.
Including our home field, which from a dimensions perspective wasn't that funky, though. Now that I think about it, it was pretty funky. We didn't have a fence in left field. We had a spray painted line.
We sure did. Well, we played in a bowl. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We played in this big bowl of a field.
Yeah, and in left field, there was a big hill that went up, and there was a line on the hill that was spray painted.
Probably what,
And
like 10 feet up on the
yeah,
hill, right?
yeah. And then you swing around to center, but it was like a rectangular shape as well. So you swing around to center. It was probably a good 450 to center.
It was a bomb, that's for sure.
And then it came straight down, straight line to right field. There's no curving of the fence. There's a straight line. We had like construction fence in right field.
With the metal poles that would impale you if you're not careful.
Yeah, the rebar sticking out of the ground.
Yeah.
With the orange construction fence, a classic for those days. And because of that type of fence, balls would go under the fence often.
Yep.
We had all kind of holes and whatnot in our field as well. So we had some funky rules with the out of play lines, with what happens, the ball goes under the fence, what happens with the white line in left field. It was quite the home field.
Yeah, I remember at our home field, there was one time a guy hit a pop-up down. I played third base. Guy hit a pop-up down the left field line, and for the out of play line, you had just a white line.
Yeah.
And so I remember like straddling that line and making a catch over my shoulder, and it was originally ruled not a catch because I apparently went over the line. And Stu came out and argued for me, and they turned it into a catch. which was great. You know, if there's a fence there, you just run into the fence, you don't catch it. That's all it is. But the one I wanted to share, the funky stadium, was involved our buddy JoJo. We played in the state championship game in Yakima, Washington, at their minor league field, and it was sort of normal out in center. It was pretty deep to center, but right down the left field line, it like came in very sharply, and I think it was like 280 maybe right down the line, and then it took off out much deeper in straightaway left field. Our buddy JoJo, he could play a little bit, but he was no power hitter. He would be the first to tell you that. And he got into one. I think it had an exit velo of about 64. And he put it right in the right spot, hit a 3-run homer that just snuck over that corner in left field. We did not win that game, but JoJo was a big part of us hanging into that game and be able to make a comeback in the last inning. But that was one of my funniest memories. We played on a lot of funky fields, I'll tell you that.
That was a fun. I was on base for that home run, and that was be in the state tournament. Your good friend hits a home run. You're on base. You get to celebrate it. We're in this thing. We're gonna win it.
Yeah.
Of course we didn't, but that's what you're thinking at the time. We got this.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. Special thanks to MLB, Hardball Times, and the Boston Globe for all the information we got to bring you today. If you have a burning question, comment below. Find us on Twitter and tweet at us there. Subscribe, like, join us. We're here every day for your viewing pleasure. Join us again tomorrow. We'll look forward to having you.